The Hills Have Eyes, Part 2, was once again directed by Wes Craven in 1984, same year that Nightmare on Elm Street came out, also 94. I think it came out afterwards, and it's pretty much known, it's kind of a fact that Wes Craven did this movie only for the money, and you can certainly tell when you watch the film, but that's pretty common knowledge. And although I will give this film this, it's not Wes Craven's worst film. This film has a lot of fun moments, but it's not his worst, although it's not even close to his best. And the funniest thing is coming out the same year as A Nightmare on Elm Street, which A Nightmare on Elm Street is my second favorite horror film of all time, next to Night of the Living Dead from 1968. And then you have this. Funny stuff. The horror industry is an entertaining bit of history lesson when you see certain horror films and how they were made, how they were done. This film, first of all, has two executive or associate directors, which I would bet money that they directed most of this film, and Wes Craven kind of just sat aside watching. You got John Callis and Tony Cesare, and why I say that too is because when the credits roll at the end of the movie, they're the first names to come up, even before Wes Craven. So kind of tells you that Wes Craven definitely took a back seat with this one, and I don't really blame him, but this one feels a little bit slasher, which is cool because it's an 80s film. But this film just makes some interesting decisions. We have some people come back. We have other people, sorry, not come back. Which some of the people that didn't return is kind of a shame. I don't know if it's, that was done on purpose or if they just couldn't come back. But for example, we have Bobby come back from the first film, and this film opens up with him basically in therapy, and he's, reliving the PTSD, the traumatic moments from what happened in the first film. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, why not Doug? Like, why? Doug was the iconic guy, and he had the final frame at the end of the first film. Where's Doug? Like, we want to see Doug kind of thing. But maybe the actor couldn't come back. Who knows? But it's just a strange way and boring way to open up the film, and it's double fisted too, and even hammed even more that Bobby is in the film for probably no more than the first 15 minutes. I can't imagine. And they don't even utilize him. He's just at the beginning of the film as fan service, I guess. But it's kind of strange fan service because he wasn't one of the most iconic characters in the first film. But before even that, the opening credits, very much inspired by the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Cool, but it's pretty blatant with the voiceover and the way it's reading the text and the text is going up. It's pure Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974. So I like that Wes Craven gave a nod to that, and it's cool to see that, but a little bit obvious, a little bit on the nose. However, it's still cool to see, so I liked that beginning. And I liked the grainy look to this again. They bring that back. And yeah, as I was saying about Bobby, he's basically in therapy, and then you have a few flashbacks from the first film, which this film suffers greatly from Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 syndrome, where a big chunk of this movie is just scenes from the first movie. Friday the 13th did that too, so nobody is really safe from that when it comes to 80s horror slashers and horror movies in general, but to focus so much on it, I just think it's a bit of a shame. But you get his flashbacks, and then he's supposed to go on this cross-country motocross journey with a bunch of friends of his, and this girl named Rachel. I'm going to get to Rachel, don't worry. I'm going to get to a lot of the characters. Forgive me if I forget some people's names, but I'm going to try my best. But yeah, he's supposed to go on this trip where there's these bikers, they do motocross, and they're going to go through the desert. He has a panic attack, PTSD, and he chooses not to go. So basically, he's in this relationship with Rachel, and Rachel decides to go, and he stays behind, and he's like, I can't do it, guys, I can't do it. So that's Bobby coming back. He comes back, he's in therapy, and then he's gonna go he's gonna go with this group of friends, these new characters. Then he chooses not to because he can't do it. His trauma's too much, and then that's it. So why even bring him back? It's just really dumb. It's a weird choice. Like, I shouldn't say, like, I shouldn't use harsh words like it's dumb, but, you know, it's dumb. Um, there's a scene at the beginning with this girl named Cassie. I just wanted to make sure I had her name right. Cassie, who and Roy is her boyfriend, and he visits her at the beginning. And this is a strange scene, especially if you're watching this film for the first time, because this guy Roy, apparently he's a prankster. He wants to play a prank on Cassie, so he sneaks through her window. He climbs up the ladder through her window wearing this mask, and if you're watching this for the first time, you think that it's going to be one of the mutants going into her bedroom, but this guy Roy is wearing this Halloween mask, right? So I'm sitting there for the first time, and I'm just like, I know this film is bad, but are you seriously gonna sell me that that's one of the mutants? Because that literally looks like a Halloween mask. Please don't tell me that that's one of the mutants, and that's what that like we're supposed to believe that's one of the mutants. That's not what happens. It's not one of the mutants. It's actually him wearing a mask. But then as the scene carries forward and he sneaks into the bedroom and she's sleeping there, it's like, what kind of a prank is that? What kind of an asshole boyfriend? Like, that's not even, that's so, like, past lines of legality. Like, you're sneaking to a woman's bedroom who is your girlfriend and you're wearing a mask that, you know, like, anything that happens to you, okay, if you get hit with a baseball, if you get shot, that's all on you, bud, okay? Literally, I don't feel sorry for you in any way, shape, or form. But he gets in there and then he goes to grab a glass of water to kind of pour it on her and wake her up, and then he realizes that she's not in bed. And then she notices him, and she's not scared because she knows it's him. I guess she knows he's a prankster and a little bit of a loon. And she's like, "Oh, you didn't scare me whatsoever." And it's like, "Yeah, well, usually you feel my face." By the way, this girl is supposed to be blind. I'll get to that too. For anybody who's seen the film, this is a spoiler review. Spoiler reviews. I hope you've seen the film if you're making it this far. So yeah, that's the first scene that's really ridiculous. When it comes to the motocross stuff, it's fine. It's just a reason to introduce another bunch of characters. You have the token black guy, Foster, and his girlfriend is named Sue, and they're basically like the comic relief, especially Foster. And then you have the Roy character who was the prankster with his buddy Harry, and they pull off most of the jokes, and they're very mean-spirited about a lot of things, though, because I think it's Harry's character who constantly makes jokes about the desert and constantly makes jokes about the mutants and constantly, because he knows the history of this desert, right? And he's like, "Oh my god, I think we're gonna get stuck here and we're gonna, you know, get dehydrated and we're gonna get attacked and killed." And he's going on and on and on, even though Rachel's on the bus and Rachel, like, also knows the history, and everybody on the bus is already kind of on edge and freaking out about where they're going, kind of thing. And he's just that guy kind of trying to scare everybody as like pranks, but it's not that funny, and it's kind of mean-spirited because they already know the history of what happened in these rural deserts, kind of thing. But they're those characters. And then you have Cassie, like I said, who I swear to God, how are, like, before the final 20 minutes of the film, I'm asking you guys, how the fuck are we supposed to know that this woman's blind? Like, how? She just walks around like normal. Like, she doesn't even have contacts, nothing. She looks like me, except female, and she's just talking to everybody normally. And they throw in like little hints that she's blind, but not until the end of the film, where you have like this darkened scene in this like shed that's in the middle of the desert where she's walking around, and you can actually see her then kind of start feeling around for everything that's in front of her. The first act of the movie and the second act of the movie, she's just acting completely like a normal person. So what kind of direction is that? Like, it was just so strange that they made this character blind and didn't have her do anything to suggest that she's blind until the very final, like, climax area of the movie. It's like, why have a blind character then? And that too, like, her being blind doesn't change the plot or anything like that going forward either. So it's just a very, very strange direction. So far I've named two things that bother me a lot more than the dog flashback. Of course I was going to mention the dog flashback eventually, but these two things bother me more. Why bring back Bobby? Why make this bitch blind for no reason? But everybody's like, a dog has a flashback. This is stupid, man. I'm not actually gonna throw the movie, but you know, this is stupid, man. And I'm like, okay, the dog flashback's dumb, but have you seen the rest of the film? Like, jeez. They make some interesting decisions in this one. So they're on the bus, they're traveling. Like I said, Harry and Roy are being jackasses with their mean spirited jokes. One girl uses the human French fries line again, which is a throwback to the first film. I found that cute. They get to this area where there's a shed, and then there's this sign that says welcome, except it's spelt WELCUM, like welcome. I laughed at that. And nobody mentions it either. They're like, oh, we don't seem that welcome. Do you feel welcome? I don't feel welcome. I don't feel welcome at all. Who feels welcome around here? And they don't like acknowledge at all that the sign says well CUM. So there's that. I noticed, of course, because I'm a sicko, but you know, welcome. Get it? Come? Yeah, anyway. How do I have as many followers as I have? I'll never know. So yeah, they get to this abandoned shed, and then this is where kind of shit starts to happen. And some of the booby traps in here are okay, but a lot of them are just very mediocre. There's one in particular that I do want to talk about. Well, first of all, I'll start with the good one. The one where one of the characters, I'm not going to backtrack on his name, but he notices the wire and he sees it there, so he kind of thinks he's outsmarting the mutants, so he pulls it and then he ducks, and then the swing thing misses him, and then he's like, ha, I got you, I outsmarted you, and then this rock comes falling on him. So I found that funny, and I really liked that one. But there's this other one that is just directed very poorly and very strange, where the mutants are on this motorcycle. This is after Jupiter steals the motorcycle, and then I said Jupiter, I meant Pluto, sorry. Pluto steals the motorcycle. Reaper, we're introduced to this new character, this new villain, Reaper. Cool character, I will give it that. He's a Jupiter-like. He's a little bit buffer. I like his kind of uniform, this like tire plate or whatever the hell he has in front of him. His getup is cooler. He looks more vicious, more sinister. Like, he looks more fucked up kind of thing. Like, he looks more mutant in a sense. So the character design is cool. They just don't utilize him at all, really. But anyways, you have this motorcycle scene where they're trying to get either Rob or Harry, one of them, or maybe another guy. And it's just directed poorly, because the mutant on the motorcycle will go over there, and then all of a sudden he'll like be back where he was before, and the cameras, the way the scene is cut just doesn't make much sense. And I'm trying to rewind it and trying to figure out what's going on, but it's one of those scenes that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but you kind of just have to go with. How Pluto can ride a motorcycle in the first place, I'll never know. I really didn't like the addition of this squirrel's tail thing that they put on Pluto's head. Like, he has a wire around his head, and then he has this seemingly squirrel tail that hangs on the back of his head. I thought that was stupid looking. I really wish they took that out, because Pluto looks cool in the original film, the way he was. He didn't need that stupid squirrel thing in the back of his head. Foster is a funny character. He really looks and acts a lot like Kincaid from the Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4. He has that kind of humor to him, and I really like the addition of this guy. Different actors, I had to look him up, see if it was the same guy, but it's not. And he has that kind of humor, and I like the funny bits that go on between him and his girlfriend Sue, because they're always, they're just always trying to find a reason and a place to have sex, basically. And they end up having sex in a bus at one point, and they have to like let Beast out because they don't want to fuck in front of Beast for some reason, and they tie Beast up to the bus, and then they go bang in the back of the bus. And then there's the one scene where Foster goes into the shed, and Cassie is taking a shower at that time, and then he's like, he's just like, ooh, and like observing her and everything, and she's like, what would you do if Sue was here right now? And Foster's just like, I tell her it's none of her damn business, because there's plenty over here to go between the two of us, or something like that. and Sue's right behind him, so he turns around and he's like, "Oh my god, I didn't mean it, sweetie," and then she kicks him in the balls, and it's this great like cheeseball '80s slasher scene, and then she runs away, and it's funny. The stuff that they play for laughs makes you chuckle, even though it's pretty lame sometimes. And then I don't want to forget about Rachel's character. So Rachel is Ruby, and she changed her name to Rachel, and she's Ruby from the first film. So Ruby from the first film ended up marrying Bobby and becoming completely civilized, like humanized. Like she came from this mutant family and she was completely fucked up and barely knew how to speak, and all of a sudden now she's a completely normal character living as Rachel, married to Bobby, and she's one of the motocross people, and she has absolutely no trauma whatsoever going to this desert. Bobby, of course, has trauma because he was almost murdered, but Ruby, living with this damn family, has no trauma whatsoever and is completely civilized. I mean completely civilized. The fuck? Makes no sense. There's another stupider thing than the dog flashback thing. Dogs are pretty intelligent. I think they would be able to retain trauma, so it's not that far-fetched. I mean, they play it out ridiculous, obviously, but there's a lot more ridiculousness going on in this film than that, pretty much. But yeah, I just wish they also utilized Reaper a lot more, the new villain, because he looked cool. They just didn't give him that much to do. And then you have the climax, which is pretty much a repetition of the climax in the first film, with using a booby trap to trap Reaper with these flames around him, and then Roy uses this like string that's attached to this rock where Cassie then pushes it down the well, and then he gets away from the flames, so it's just Reaper there with the flames, and then they set a barrel of kerosene inside the bus so the bus can blow up. It treads with like the ending of the first film, kind of, but just in slightly different ways, and it's okay, I guess. It's entertaining. It's just kind of silly and kind of repetitive. So I don't know. This film is just a really weak and really stupid way to follow up The Hills Have Eyes, especially because The Hills Have Eyes is so classic and has so much merit to it, and in being unique, especially in being that unique grindhouse experience, and then you just get this as kind of like a here's some extra stuff with, like I said, the extra silliness thrown in there out of absolutely nowhere, seemingly. But like I said, everybody bitches about the dog flashback, and I have to say, what about blind Cassie, who serves no purpose whatsoever, and you don't even know she's blind until like 20 minutes before the movie finishes? What about Ruby, who's now Rachel, marrying Bobby? What about Bobby not even being a part of the film, really? What about Doug not coming back? Like, there's a lot about this film that just doesn't work. But what does work is its entertainment value for an hour and a half, and Foster, he's funny. he's really funny. He's that funny character. So the comedic relief stuff is entertaining. But you know, the whole time you're just like, this is not a payoff. This is not a homage. This is not honoring The Hills Have Eyes. You know, this maybe if it was called something else, it would have a completely different legacy. But this is no honor to The Hills Have Eyes, unfortunately. But it's still fun. It could be way worse. And literally, I watched Shocker by Wes Craven for the first time ever the other day, and I couldn't finish that piece of shit. So this is not the worst Wes Craven movie. I will give it that. It's not the worst Wes Craven movie, not even close. But that's The Hills Have Eyes Part 2 from 1984, directed by Wes Craven. And of course there's A Hills Have Eyes 2, that's the sequel to the remake, but we'll get there. It's got a legacy, so it was just a paycheck for Craven, but when you can try your least and still create a legacy with a film, you know, it is what it is, kind of thing. So there's many worse horror films out there. That's not the worst in the world. It's is what it is. Subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you like to listen to my voice or if you like my film reviews. I'll be back with more soon, so stay tuned for those. Check out what's on the channel already. Stay tuned for what's coming. Until next review, have a good one. Take care and cheers.